Hi, everybody. You've been learning about early Americans, how they came from Europe and settled in America, and they met people that had already been living here, and they were Native Americans. Now, and they interacted and they met each other, and Native is one who is born or reared in a particular place. Now, maybe you were born in Ohio and you're being raised in Ohio. Well, you are a native Ohioan. So the people that had been living in America when the early settlers came from Europe were called Native American. So today we are going to learn about how Native Americans built their homes. You might call it a dwelling. That's a place where someone lives. We have a dwelling. I happen to dwell or live in an apartment. And some of you may live in an apartment or a single family house. That's your dwelling. Well, early Native Americans had particular ways that they built their homes. They usually built their homes according to what natural resources they had in a certain area. And we're going to learn about that. And we're also going to make a little craft and make a paper teepee. So first of all, we're going to learn about the different types of homes that Native Americans built and the materials that they used to build those homes. And it's quite interesting. So come along and I'll show you what supplies you need, and I'll show you what papers that you need to get out, and we'll get started. So first of all, we're going to use the Native American Homes worksheet. Okay, we're going to read that together. And then after that, we are going to do this cut out, and construct this Native American teepee. Most people think that that's what all Native Americans lived in, but oh my goodness, they had a lot of different dwellings that they lived in. So let's get started. Okay, everybody, we're going to read this article, Native American Homes, and I have a list of words that I'd like you to try to highlight. You can use a highlighter or a light colored pencil or crayon to highlight the words. We've done this before. And I'm just going to read along, and when you see one of those words, just go ahead and highlight it. You're probably going to catch more than I have. Long ago, before Europeans settled in North America, Native Americans lived in many unique types of homes. The type of homes a tribe built depended to the region's climate and natural resources, as well as the tribe's culture, what they believed, their art, how they lived. So we'll start with the adobe house. Adobe house. Early adobe houses were made of stone. Later they were built of bricks made of clay and straw. Adobe houses were built by Pueblo, Zuni, and Hopi tribes in the Southwest. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight a few of the words that I missed here. Here's the word were. And in, here, and the. Okay, we're going to move over here to teepee. A teepee was a tent made of wooden poles covered with animal skins. It could be taken down and moved easily. We're going to talk about that later. Members of the Dakota tribes and the Plains Cree and other tribes in the Great Plains built teepees. Okay, so we found a few of these words over here: in, of, the, to, and, as, they, were, was, and made. Found a few there. We're going to move to plank house. A plank house was made of cedar wood. Ropes were used to hold the house together. Many tribes in the Pacific Northwest built these types of houses, including the Clapsop, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, and Wakiakum. So we found a few there. Did I miss any? Oh, yep. I missed the word the. Okay, now we're going to move down to longhouse. A longhouse was a home made of wooden poles covered with bark and animal skins. The Iroquois and some Algonquin tribes in the Northeast built longhouses. So, oh my goodness, there are several words that I missed here, and you'll find more. And then we're going to go to wigwam. Probably heard that one before. A wigwam was a dome-shaped building made of arched poles and were usually covered with woven mats or tree bark. The Algonquin tribes in the Northeast, including the Wampanoag and the Chippewa, would commonly build wigwams. So these are the different types. There were others, but these were the main types of homes or dwellings that the Native Americans built. And remember, they used the resources around them. So I thought we would look at each one of these homes and go over a map and show you what region the Native Americans lived in, where they built these homes. So the adobe house was made of stone, and later they used clay they used bricks made of clay, soil, and straw. And they were the Pueblo, the Zuni, and the Hopi tribes in the Southwest. So that's down here. They even built homes in cliffs, and they're called cliff dwellings. You can still see those now if you go to New Mexico or Arizona to visit. You can see some amazing cliff dwellings that are still existing. So they're people don't live in them anymore, but they're sites where Native Americans used to live. So here in Ohio, that's right now, all the way back over here were it was the Southwest. And that is where they built the adobe homes. Now that back then that was called America, the Americas, but now it's the United States. So the states over here in the Southwest are Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. And let's look at the teepee. Remember, the teepee was a tent made of wooden poles and covered with animal skins. It could be easily moved. Members of the Dakota tribes, the Plains Cree, and other tribes like the Sioux, there were many more. They lived in the Great Plains, and they built teepees to live in. Now, the Great Plains were down here. We are over here in Ohio. The Great Plains are there. Back then, they were just known as the Great Plains, but now it's Nebraska, Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, and the tribes that lived in the Great Plains used to migrate. They were called nomads. They would move in order to find animals and food, and the animals like the buffalo or deer or other animals would migrate, and the people that built teepees would follow those herds of animals, because that was where their main source of food came from, their clothing, their materials for building. And so they came from the Great Plains, and that's why they had to build a structure, a home that was easily removable. So they would take it down and pack it up and move and follow where the animals were going, migrating. So here is a plank house. A plank house was made of cedar wood and ropes, and that held the house together. That looks pretty stable, doesn't it? The tribes in the Pacific Northwest built these types of houses. So Pacific, here's a Pacific over in the west. Here's Ohio, so that's the west, and there's the Pacific, and the Pacific Northwest is up here. Now, they could build these types of homes up in the Pacific Northwest because they had a pretty stable resource. That means they had trees, they had animals, they had food, fruits, they could grow things, crops, and they had a lot of natural resources, so they did not have to move to follow their resources. It was all right there. And they built pretty sturdy homes. That one looks pretty amazing, doesn't it? And down here we have a longhouse. That was a home made of wooden poles and covered with bark and animal skins. And they built, the Iroquois and the Algonquin tribes, they built in the Northeast. And these look pretty sturdy, don't they? So here we are. Back then, this was called the Northeast region. And it goes up into Canada. And again, these tribes that lived here had pretty reliable natural resources. They didn't have to move to find them, they were all there. Animals, trees, water, everything they needed was there. And nowadays, here's Ohio. This area is called, well, Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, Maine, up into Canada and some other states, New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, lots of different states. And down here we have a wigwam. A wigwam was a dome-shaped building made of arched poles, and they were usually covered with woven mats or tree bark. Now, the Algonquin tribes, which included the Wampanoag and the Chippewa, were also in the Northeast, and they were able to build these type of homes that were pretty stable and didn't have to be taken down to move. So you see, tribes that lived in the Americas had very different resources. They had very different lifestyles. They had very different cultures, and they lived all over the continental America. So, as I said before, we're going to make a teepee. So what you're going to need is a glue stick, something to color with. I have my coloring pencils here, and of course a pair of scissors. So we'll come back and get right to that. All right, this is the teepee that we're going to work on, and I've got my colors set aside. I think I like to use these kind of natural colors, and you can choose any color you want, but this is my choice. And I know that Native Americans used natural things found in nature, like lichen from a tree, or I don't know, they used all kinds of things from the animals that they killed and used. They did not waste anything. They used everything they had. And they would use things from nature to make dye or paint. And I like doing that too. I like to make dyes, natural dyes, to color my paper and my fabric. And so Native Americans used all kinds of artistic expression to express their beliefs and their customs. And I really believe they probably decorated their teepees, and they were probably quite beautiful. So anyway, we're going to get started, and I'm not going to cut mine out first. You can do that if you want, but I'm going to color mine in first. So let's get going. Now it's time to start cutting out. Okay, so we're going to cut just along the dotted lines. We're going to go around the teepee shape. And that's the tab that where we're going to put the glue, put our teepee together. So do you see how I'm cutting around? Just the dotted line. You don't want to cut on that solid line, but you want to cut here. So there we go. And I'm going to just go around that really quickly. And then I'm going to just do a little snip here and a little snip there for the doorway. Okay. Now you're going to flip your teepee over and find those lines and put a nice crease. Use your finger to just move along the fold there. And now you're going to go to the next one. See those lines all the way down? You're just going to go make a fold on each one of those lines. You can do this. There you go. And here's the last one. And then you're going to fold down your glue tab. You have to kind of be careful about this because you want your teepee to be able to stand up on its own. So now I'm going to get my glue and I'm going to put lots. Use that piece of paper under there and just put lots of glue there. I like purple glue. I can see where I've put my glue. Okay, and then you're just going to put the side of your teepee on top of the tab, and then just put your hand under there and just give it a good rub. It's called burnishing. So you just burnish the glue onto the paper. Get really sturdy, and you put your hand under there so that you can have something to rub against. Okay, so there's my teepee. It's kind of fun. Hope you enjoyed making your teepee. This is mine, my finished product, and learning about the different dwellings and homes that early Native Americans built. I also wanted to just let you know that I am really lucky to have Native American grandchildren. And this is Harper and this is Mirren, and they are Navajo. And I get to visit them in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Also, because we're celebrating National Native American Heritage Month, it's fantastic that 6 Native Americans have been elected to Congress this year, 2020. We might even have a Native American president one day. Wouldn't that be great? Okay, guys, thanks a lot. See you soon. Bye.